And hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to talk about what I see as a Tesla robotaxi delay. I don't think this is controversial, but I haven't heard anyone else talking about what seems to me to be obvious delay that robotaxi is not rolling out as quickly as we thought it would, which is, of course, not that unusual with Tesla, but I thought it was worth talking about. And as a result of my view on this, I made some big moves. This is a few days ago. I made some substantial moves in my call options, selling my January 2027 Tesla call options, bought January 2028 Tesla call options. I sold some Tesla to buy Nvidia, not really related to the robotaxi delay, and I sold some Tesla to cover my living expenses, which is something I do. Ideally, content creation, you guys supporting me on the various platforms, the ad revenue provides enough that I don't have to sell Tesla stock to fund my lifestyle, but I still have to sell some. And also, I have to sell some because of the conditions of one of my retirement accounts. I have to clear that account out in 7 more years. So anyway, the big decision was the options move, and I explained that video in another video for subscribers for people who are paying to support me on the X platform, for YouTube channel members, for the Daily Lie members, and for Patreon supporters. So this video is the second in a series on Tesla options. I don't know if I'm going to do a third video on that. I might, but this pretty much covered the intent of what I was trying to do, and I may take another look at it in a couple weeks. These options strategy videos are for people who are paying to support my channel, my content creation, so that I can sell less Tesla stock. Or maybe eventually buy more Tesla stock. We'll see. Or buy Nvidia stock as part of the discussion. So please consider joining the YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing to me on X or Patreon support or the Daily Lie support. Okay, so let's get into this delay, the robotaxi delay. So this is back in the Q2 earnings call. This is the transcript. There was a question about the long-term view of robotaxi and how should investment analysts and investors think about the main milestones to getting there. And Elon said that the actual cost per mile Cybercab will be very low. It tells us robotaxi will go from tiny to gigantic in terms of operations in a pretty short period of time. Like, my guess is it has a material impact on our financials around the end of next year. So now this is in 2025, so he's talking about the end of 2026. So when I was thinking we're going to see a material impact, and I have reasons beyond Elon saying it to think, I think we're going to see a material impact, and we're going to see this raising the stock before the end of 2026. Now, if you're holding January 2027 call options, seeing that material impact by the end of 2026 is kind of important. Because if you don't get the material impact by the end of 2026, you're probably not going to get them before the strike date in January of 2027. And I was watching the stock. I've been watching what's been going on with Robotaxi, and I got a little bit nervous. Now, you go forward to the Q3 earnings call, and Elon says, we do expect to have no safety drivers in the car in Austin within a few months. I think that's the most important data point, and we do expect to be operating robotaxi in, I think, about 8 to 10 metro areas by the end of the year. And Ashok says, and overall safety continues to be good. As Elon mentioned, we're on track to remove the person from inside the car altogether, starting with Austin. Now, this was October, so we're about a month and a half from that point, and we're approaching the end of the year. There's still a safety person in the car in Austin. There's still a safety person in the passenger seat in Austin and the driver's seat in California. And as far as I know, 0 additional metro areas have been added to the robotaxi map. I don't think it's likely that we're going to see. I don't know. I'm not hearing any rumors that any other cities are starting up. You know, we were expecting, I think I have this in the next one. No, I think it was in that one. Oh, Nevada. We expect to be operating in Nevada and Florida and Arizona by the end of the year. We're not I don't think we're operating in Nevada. I don't think we're operating in Florida. I don't think we're operating in Arizona. And, you know, we've got 3 weeks left till the end of the year. 3.5 weeks left to the end of the year. My gut is that we are catching up at 1.5x speed. Thank you. My gut is that we're not likely to see another metro area by the end of the year. We're certainly not likely to see 6 to 8 new metro areas by the end of the year. So this is behind. Getting the safety person out of the car. Now that they said 3 months, I think. No safety drivers in Austin within a few months. Now this is mid-October, so that's really January, February that you'd expect to get the safety person out. But there's no hint that we're close to that. And I think also we were expecting, I think that's in the next one. We'll be adding reasoning. I don't know a show because that like reasoning in like 14.3, maybe 14.4 or something like that. Yes, by the end of the year for sure. Now, does anyone think we're getting 14.3 or 14.4 by the end of the year? We're certainly not getting 14.4 by the end of the year. I think we're still on 14.2. Maybe Christmas present we get 14.3. I don't know. But I feel like we're scratching the edge of, what and I normally say, okay, it's Elon time, don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal. But when Ashok is backing up the predictions, then I think they're more credible. And now that we're approaching the end of the year and it looks like we're not getting that makes me think we would be lucky to see 6 by the end of next year. See 6 by the end of next year. 14.4, I don't know what you mean. Hello, Shamsky. Hello, everybody. I don't know what that means. See 6 by the end of next year. 6 what? 14.6? 6 cities? I don't know what you mean. My expectation has been at some point the rollout starts to expand more rapidly. It's working. We don't need a safety operator in the car. We've expanded to several markets. Any individual market, the Bay Area of California can probably support at least 1,000 cars. Austin can probably support 1,000 cars. Bay Area probably could support 5,000 robotaxis. I don't even know if it's like more than that. So my thinking in my head was when we hit something like 10,000 robotaxis, and then you go to, let's say, Q3 of 2026, which I'm now pushing back. But you go to Q3 of 2026 and you say, okay, the cars are operating full time. They're generating about $50,000 a year in gross profit each. You got 10,000 cars, right? 10,000 times 50,000 is $500 million a year in gross profit. And that's probably on an accounting line in the financials, maybe in Q3, so October of 2026. And now I'm thinking, okay, it's taking longer than I thought. I don't think it should. My gut is like, hey, you cross a certain threshold and you're ready to just grow bigger. I don't see what's slowing these things up. So that's frustrating for me. Is like there's a certain point where you're like, okay, we're there. 14.4 says, my opinion is that cities will not be ready for robotaxi service when Tesla is. So we'll be lucky to have 6 more cities by the end of next year. No, see, I disagree with that. Arizona is not in the fleet yet, and Arizona has Waymo operating. There are other cities that have Waymo operating. If Tesla's ready to go, then they just follow Waymo's path. Florida is going to be relatively friendly. You're going to see more metro areas. You might see more metro areas in Texas. Las Vegas is going to be pretty open. I don't think those are the holdup. New York City, yeah. Right? I think you're going to see holdups in some major cities, especially in the Northeast, anywhere that Elon is hated. Right? Anywhere that's any of the blue places are more likely to resist. I don't think it's regulations. I think that Tesla is holding back. I think Tesla is testing the robotaxi fleet. I don't know, but I don't think this is regulatory. Because if it was regulatory, then why hasn't Austin expanded? Why hasn't California expanded? Why is the safety operator still in the car? Shamsky says, by the way, Warren, how do you sell stock for living expenses? Just random when you need? So I live in Thailand, and I'm actually, it's complicated with my visa status. I had a Thai bank account before. I just opened a new Thai bank account, and I typically transfer a substantial amount of money from America to my Thai bank account. That will last a long time, so I don't have to do a lot of wire transfers. And that wire transfer is now underway. And I expect that's going to be like, I'm not going to need to do another wire transfer for a year. I've already paid for the Model Y, and what my rent is and the amount I'm transferring. Like, I think it's going to last me about a year, if not longer. I do pay some things with credit cards that I pay from America at home. I do have some expenses in America, fairly minimal, that I pay in America. So yeah, it's sort of like I just see what my finances look like and say, okay, I think I'm going to need to draw some money. And it's not, there's no science to it. It's like, I think now's a good time. And I confess that there's a little bit of timing. When Tesla stock is up, I might say, yeah, this is a good time to sell. Um, but sometimes I have to, and I sell low. Um, any European or other non-USA cities trying out Robotaxi? No. I know that there are other European cities that are trying out FSD in a very limited way. China has FSD. I think China will adopt Robotaxi before some American cities. We'll see about that. 2 Starlink launches today scheduled, whether they happen. Yeah, I don't know about Starlink. We're going to talk about SpaceX a little bit in a minute. But I just wanted to cover this, and I wanted to stress, I did make an options move. And if you want to learn more detail, because there's a lot of detail in this video about what I did, a lot of depth. It's a fairly large set of transactions, especially the options transactions were a fairly large set of transactions. And I think I put together a pretty good explanation of how I made the decisions I made. So I think if you're interested in long-term option strategies, it's not very expensive to support me as a YouTube channel member, as an ex-subscriber, on Patreon, or on the Daily Line. The video is available on all those platforms. And the previous video, which discusses the strategy planning ahead of time, is available on all those platforms. So please take a look at those and let me know what you think. And I'm going to look at the option situation again, maybe in a few weeks or a month, and I might make another video just talking about where we stand. Did I see the New York Times opinion piece in favor of self-driving cars? Dr. John Slotkin also posted on X. I don't think I read the piece because the New York Times is usually paywalled, and I don't like the New York Times. I think the New York Times is unreliable, untrustworthy, etc. I think it's obvious that robotaxi, that governments should embrace self-driving cars. And I think it's also obvious that politicians, Republican or Democrat, have their heads up their asses. There's this, like, if I have one underlying message that I would love people to understand from me, it's that politicians do not care about us. They are not interested in our welfare. They are not interested in life being better for us. They are mostly corrupt. They are mostly looking to make their lives better, to enhance their election chances, to funnel money to their family and friends, and they're big supporters. And it could be European politicians, American politicians, I don't care. And the people who have most influence over these politicians are people who don't care about don't want self-driving cars to happen. How much have you thought about Tesla buying a rental car agency so they have access to additional sites and slow move to 100% Teslas and cybercabs? I've thought about Tesla partnering with Hertz because Hertz did previously buy a bunch of Teslas. I do think that rental car companies are a perfect idea for like having a place for robotaxis to go at night, having a staff that's already trained to clean vehicles and make sure everything's okay. But I would say it would be that Hertz would partner and buy a bunch of robotaxis and just run them as a partner. I don't know that Tesla needs to do that, but I think that might make sense. Why is Robotaxi app international? Why not? I mean, there's no harm in making the Robotaxi app available everywhere, and it's not difficult to do. It may be that if I fly into Austin, or Bay Area, I can use the Robotaxi app. Tesla FSD V14 is approaching level 4 capability. I'm hearing lots of good things about FSD. Unfortunately, I don't get to experience it in Thailand because I live in a country with a backward view of technology. I don't pay attention to the level designation. I think FSD version 14 is getting very good, and it's about to get a little bit better. I think at a certain point, they're going to 10x the parameters, and that will make the model perform even better and sort of like develop the model's understanding of the world. It's got a world model that helps it. It uses its understanding of the world to make decisions, and if it has a better understanding of the world, then it makes better decisions. Craig says, random observation, cool seeing so many FSD videos showing driving in the snow across US and Canada. That's actually not new for those of us who've been following Tesla for a long time, FSD for a long time. Shomsky says so. Robotaxi doesn't really dent the financials next year with 0.5 billion revenue. No, I said 0.5 billion in gross profit. 500 million in gross profit's actually a significant number. 500 million in revenue wouldn't be a significant number, but 500 million in gross profit would be a more significant number. Um, it's still not huge, but the point is that if you document a number like that and you say, okay, we're at 10,000 robo-taxis, no, we won't, we'll be at 100,000 soon, we'll be at a million after that, you can do the math and say 500 million, 5 billion, 50 billion, right? It doesn't take a lot to get to $50 billion in gross profit, which is 2.5x or more current gross profit. So it's just documenting that we have these gross profits and that we have this growth path. It becomes a lot more obvious when you see it in the financials. I don't know whether it was Wall Street Journal or New York Times in that piece. I thought it was the Journal actually, but I'm not sure. Elon said something about it. Okay, so let's turn to SpaceX. Yes, it's about the trend in gross profit growth. If you see a line that has a lot of growth potential, that's a real positive. Okay, so just turning to SpaceX for a minute, there was a story in the information, which I might just as well call the misinformation, because I saw this and I'm like, no, no. And, of course, this is paywalled. Reuters did an article that sort of gave you bits and pieces from behind the paywall. My normal remove the paywall website didn't work, so I wasn't able to actually read the article. But as I understand it, two independent sources, two anonymous sources say SpaceX is planning to do an IPO in 2026 of the full company. And I don't think this is true. So I wrote, and Elon responded to this, and I'll address Elon's response in a minute. My gut is that number one, this is unreliable. It relies on two anonymous sources. How many times have we seen, according to people familiar with the matter, and it turns out not to be true? And at least some of this is not true according to what Elon posted. I think this misunderstands the value of Starlink. From what I read of what Reuters said, they said in the article, Starlink is a $1 trillion company today, probably. If you were to do an IPO of just Starlink today, I think you'd end up with a $1 trillion valuation on Starlink alone. SpaceX is holding back on Starlink. I think Starlink might IPO next year, but not SpaceX as a whole. The article apparently had two different valuations of SpaceX of 560 billion or 800 billion. Make up your minds. I really believe that Starlink will be a $1 trillion market cap company on its own. Short answer there is the market for the market for Starlink $1 billion a year in revenue. And when you work out the numbers, SpaceX's cost structure ends up being very low once you get them into orbit, and their launch costs are low, so their cost of getting them into orbit is fairly low. And they're going to have to replace them about every 5 years. So you figure, all right, you've got X number of satellites, you got to do this many launches. Well, their launch cost is low, their manufacturing cost is low. And they're adding on services I didn't anticipate, like direct to sell might increase their revenue. And when I count their revenue, I don't count things like high speed traders. I don't count things like high speed traders taking advantage of the laser links to communicate to the markets quicker and lower latency. Mark says buffering. I'm not seeing anything on my end, Mark, so it might be you. Stream health. All right, there was a warning, but it says good. Okay. So my prediction is that Starlink will IPO in 2026. They will offer about 20% of Starlink's shares to the public. So that's a limited supply of the stock. And SpaceX will retain 80% ownership of Starlink, which is basically a money printing machine. And they will get an influx of cash that they'll be able to use to invest in certain things like building an AI satellite fleet, building more starships, because they may want to scale up the production of starships, etc. No sound. You do have sound or you don't have sound? I'm not going to start the video again. That's not sensible. Let me just see. Is this any better? Is this any better? Let's see. I just switched to a different Wi-Fi. Let's see if that's any better. I'm watching to see if the chat to see if if it got any better. The price set in the purchase of employee stock was $800 based on revaluation of Barron Funds revaluation. This valuation is based on private company discount, so that appears correct. Thank you for joining the chat, Larry. Unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties. Can you guys hear me now? Is it any better? A lot of lag buffer. Refresh your screen for sound. Yeah, please try refreshing your screen. Maybe it's you and not me. I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. Unfortunately, I can't control this. So anyway, Elon responded to these rumors. There's been a lot of press claiming SpaceX is raising money at $800 billion, which is not accurate. SpaceX has been cash flow positive for many years and does periodic stock buybacks twice a year to provide liquidity for employees and investors. Valuation increments are a function of progress with Starship and Starlink in securing global direct-to-cell spectrum that greatly increases our addressable market. And one other thing, so there's another thing there. So Larry is saying, thank you, Larry. Larry is saying that when they did this pricing for periodic stock buybacks to provide liquidity for employees and investors, that leads to an $800 billion valuation for SpaceX. Not that there's some sort of funding round planned, not that there's some other funding going on, that SpaceX is cash flow positive and does stock buybacks, and that's what triggers valuation. So, of course, the information is the disinformation, and they got it wrong. Okay. And then Elon addressed one other thing. While I have great fondness for NASA, they will constitute less than 5% of our revenue next year. Commercial Starlink is by far our largest contributor to revenue. Some people have claimed that SpaceX gets subsidized by NASA. This is absolutely false. The SpaceX team won the NASA contracts because we offered the best product at the lowest price, both best product and lowest cost. With regard to astronaut transport, SpaceX is currently the only option that passes NASA safety standards, and the price per seat on Dragon is less than the price per seat on Soyuz, on the Russian option. Okay, so that covers that. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about is, and please refresh your screen if you are having trouble, if you're having difficulty. I don't know. So the European Union has decided to fine the X platform for a misleading verification blue check system, which is not misleading. I understand it. Other people understand it. It's not misleading. We know what the verification is. The fact that European bureaucrat morons can't understand what everyone else understands is not a reflection on the X platform. It's a reflection on European bureaucrats. They're fining X for not giving free access to EU approved researchers. Who are these people? Why does the EU get to designate researchers who get free access to a private company's data? That's absurd. And there's one other one. And don't forget that a while back, they threatened Elon for X having Trump on for an interview. And now the Trump administration is hot. J.D. Vance is complaining about it. Some senators are complaining about it. The State Department's complaining about it. So I'm taking this personally. And I just visited Europe recently. I had been thinking about going to Europe in May for the Tesla takeover event put on by Tesla Club of Austria. I'm friends with some of the people in Tesla Club Austria, and I want to go. But I can't see supporting European countries, in light of their, number one, their attack on X, which is a platform that I greatly appreciate, but also their attack on, they're immolating their own culture. They're self-immolating their own culture. They've allowed too many immigrants in. They're destroying Italian culture. They're destroying British culture. They're destroying German culture. Now, I visited Vienna. I thought it was great. I thought Bologna was a shit pile, but other people have told me Bologna was a shit pile before. I did not think Italy looked that good. I did not think Greece looked that good. I think that those countries are struggling, and I think the weight of excessive immigration is a problem for them. That's not the reason for this. The reason for this is European bureaucrats have been attacking Elon and X for more than a year now. And I've just had it. And this latest thing you're finding, and they based their fine on X's global revenue. Well, don't tell me this is a European issue if you're basing the fine on X's global revenue. They are trying to regulate X globally. The European Union is trying to control the X platform globally, not just in Europe. They want to control what you see in America too. They want to control what I see in Thailand too. So, well, 14.4 is saying the U.S. can simply implement fines. Yes, the United States government can respond, but so can we. And so I am encouraging people to consider boycotting European brands. All European cars, Michelin tires, I left off Pirelli tires, don't travel to Europe. The United States is the biggest source of travel to Europe. Don't go to Europe. Don't go to any European countries. You know, the UK arguably is an exception. Switzerland is arguably an exception. But with Switzerland in particular, the Swiss companies, their supply chains are deeply intertwined with the European economy. Even though they're technically not the EU, their economy is largely dependent on the EU, largely involved in the EU. So, you know, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Gucci, Prada, Versace, Armani, Chanel, Sephora, like there's all these brands here. And I would encourage you to screenshot this and take a look at this list. Nescafe, Nestle is a big one. Lindt chocolates. I love Lindt chocolates. I'm going to boycott Lindt chocolates. I do buy chocolates. Perrier and Pellegrino, my favorite bottled waters. I haven't been drinking beer lately, so that's not an issue. Lavazza coffee, I have seen that. Not going to buy Lavazza coffee. I probably have bought like a Lavazza coffee recently. Again, I don't drink, so the alcohol doesn't apply to me. Although I do have some wines there, but I already bought those. And I got a sake bottle over here. Danone Activia yogurt. I don't typically buy that. I do buy yogurt, but I won't buy those. Philips, Siemens, Mailey, Bosch, Electrolux Electronics. I did just buy an Electrolux clothes dryer, but that's after. Adidas, Puma sneakers, Zara, and H&M are two stores that I do see occasionally in Thailand. I'm not going to shop in them. IKEA, we do have a couple of IKEAs here in Thailand. Not going to shop there. I won't be buying Lego blocks for my nieces. I won't be using Spotify. I do have a Spotify account, but I won't be using it. So these are, I don't know how easy it is to boycott pharmaceuticals. That's a different question. So this is just my opinion is boycott Europe, boycott travel to Europe, and boycott European products as much as possible, as much as you can. And I'm not saying like end the boycott when they reverse the fine on X. I just don't see. Europe has decided to make war on freedom. They're making war on I faced censorship on the YouTube platform. I faced censorship on Facebook. Some of that was driven by the same things that are driving this attack on X. And I modified how I do my YouTube channel, and I created the Daily Lie as an outlet for free speech when I felt like I couldn't speak freely on YouTube. This is a war on us. This is not just about Elon. This is not just about the X platform. This is about my speech, and this is about your speech. This is about my right to say what I want to say, your right to say what you want to say, about my right to hear what others want to say, and your right to hear what others want to say. Handsome Squidward says the EU is the problem more, not the continent, its people, companies. Yeah, well, the people and the companies can do something about it. The idea that we just have to sit there and watch and do nothing. No, I'm not doing nothing. RC says, I can't give up my Michelin tires. Get Yokohama tires. What are you talking about? Goodyear, Yokohama, there's plenty of tire choices. Boycott hurts workers, never my intent. Hurt the workers. Make them vote to fix it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to back down from this. This doesn't change unless a very clear message is sent to Europe. And the way you send the clear message is hit them in the pocketbook. The boycott doesn't just hurt workers. It hurts everybody in Europe. It hurts shareholders in Europe. It hurts the power structures in Europe. It hurts tax revenue in Europe. Hurt them. Make them pay. Am I staying in Thailand long term? I expect to be in Thailand for a while, but I travel. Yeah, travel to Japan, travel to Southeast Asia, travel to South America, travel to Argentina, to Chile, Philippines. There's lots of places you can go. Go to Canada. I don't love Canada, but go to Canada. Her RW Hirsch, I run around my Czech neighborhood naked screaming America. Fuck yeah. That's hilarious. 14 forces more than a few EU countries are going to have hard social upheaval because the governments can no longer afford their benefit programs. Yeah, there's lots of problems in Europe. And I'm not, look, I know there's problems in Europe, and I'm not saying, oh, boycott Europe because they're fighting against the AfD party in Germany. That's not my problem. I don't like that, but that's not my problem. UK is becoming a Muslim country, or Paris is becoming a Muslim city. Okay, I don't like it, but that's not my problem. That's not prompting me to boycott anything. But yeah, and yes, we can hope that Trump will do something about it. We can hope Trump then will make them pay. But I don't count on the U.S. government to do anything right. I don't count on our politicians to fix problems. We can address this problem ourselves. Boycott them. Boycott every European product. Make it clear, and say it. Announce it on X. I'm boycotting yours. You can find my post here. This was about 24 hours ago, 22 hours ago. You can find my post, repost it, quote post it, and say, I'm boycotting Europe. Please quote post this and say, I'm boycotting Europe. Send a message to the Europeans that they're going to pay for this. I mean, they're causing all kinds of problems to their own countries anyway. 14.4 says the EU needs to make U.S. technology companies the villains to hide the failure of their governance and real problems in EU member states. Well, every politician creates a villain to target and blame for everything. True. Yeah, of course, Elon's the villain. The tech companies are the villains, but you know they've specifically targeted X. They didn't target Facebook. They didn't target YouTube. They didn't target. You know, they went after X in particular because Elon interviewed Trump and Trump won the election, and they hate Trump. I don't think EU can really get to orbit. They may have occasionally gotten to orbit. They don't. Maybe they can get to orbit. I'm not sure. So I just think that the EU needs to get slapped as many ways as we can. And I'm sorry, but like, look, if you support freedom, if you want freedom of speech, you don't want European bureaucrats taking away your freedom of speech, your freedom to say what you want to say, and your freedom to hear what you want to hear, the speakers you want to hear. They didn't want Elon to interview Trump. They didn't want Trump to be heard. You can dislike Trump. Do you think that people shouldn't be able to hear what he has to say? My child is European. I'll stop feeding him. Okay, that's going too far. If you're in Europe, I understand you have to buy European products. The only EU product I own is an old pair of Pumas. Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, here's a list of things that you might buy. And I would just say, look in the store when you're in the store. Maybe it's a mustard. Maybe it's a bottle of wine. Think about it. What are your choices? Choose something else. I'm definitely Michelin tire. Definitely Pirelli tire. You can buy Yokohama tires. You can buy Goodyear tires. You don't need Michelin tires. Okay. So just to Scholl's are nice shoes. Is it Dr. Scholl's European? I didn't know that. So just really quick again, please consider supporting me on this platform so you can see my latest video on Tesla option strategy. I did a really substantial move on trades of my options and then some other trades that were pretty substantial, and I explained them all in my most recent video, which is available to YouTube channel members. It's available to X subscribers, supporters on the Daily Live, supporters on Patreon. Oh, Jim Whitehead just showed up. Jim, you're late, my friend. You're late, but I respect that. I'm glad that you slept well. And, brief summary, Robotaxi's late. All the signs are that Robotaxi is later than we thought, and therefore I thought it was wise to shift my options to a later strike date. Again, fully explained in this video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I'm going to wrap this up, and I get to call my daughter now, so